All right, so moving on to the next segment, I'll be sharing my thoughts on Brian McIntyre being sent to jail. So, if you guys don't know, Brian McIntyre is the mastermind. He is the trainer for Terrence Bud Crawford, the undisputed welterweight champion in the sport of boxing. So, boxer trainer of the undisputed welterweight champion Terrence Crawford, Brian McIntyre, was arrested Sunday in the UK, in the United Kingdom, at a United Kingdom airport. After security discovered a firearm in his luggage. He was then arrested by police and was charged with the possession of a firearm. Brian McIntyre will remain in jail in the United Kingdom until a court hearing is set to take place on October 9th next month. So, this is huge. And the reason why Brian McIntyre was over in the UK, Brian McIntyre, like I just said, he's a boxing trainer, one of the best boxing trainers in the sport today. He was over there in the United Kingdom this past weekend helping Chris Eubank Jr. pick up a victory and in the rematch against Liam Smith. That was the reason why he was over in the United Kingdom this past weekend in the sport of boxing. And unfortunately, after helping his guy Chris Eubank pick up the win it's Saturday night, unfortunately, on his way back to the United States, he got caught in the airport with a firearm. And this is really bad news for Brian McIntyre, because the United States and the United Kingdom have two different laws. They have different beliefs in having firearms and carrying a gun. Now, that's where I'm going to drop it right there. Again, this is not a political podcast. This is a sports podcast. Just comparing the two different countries, how they feel about gun control or carrying around a firearm, a loaded firearm at that. But this is not good news for Brian McIntyre. Could face up to 5 years in jail for carrying a firearm in the United Kingdom. That's their law. That's their beliefs over in that country. And unfortunately, Brian McIntyre was in the wrong place at the wrong time with a loaded firearm in an airport, got arrested on sight for it. And it's just bad news, because what can you really defend Brian McIntyre for come October 9th? He got caught red-handed with a loaded firearm in a United Kingdom airport. They are against that. That is not their beliefs. And you got to follow the rules that different countries have. But I have this question, though. If Brian McIntyre was coming into the United Kingdom, he flew over from the States to the United Kingdom, how the heck did he not get caught with a firearm in the first place? He had to get on a plane to get to the United Kingdom. How did he not get caught over there the first time when he got off the plane in the UK? How did he just get caught coming back to the States? I don't know how that worked, but he got caught. But this is a tricky situation for several reasons. Brian McIntyre, like I just mentioned, is one of the best trainers in the sport of boxing. He's the mastermind behind Terrence Crawford. He helped Terrence Crawford become the first ever male in the sport of boxing to become a two-time undisputed champion in two different weight classes. And he's really one of the biggest reasons why Terrence Crawford really looked phenomenal against Errol Spence Jr. In July. That game plan was very phenomenal. He said in interviews that him and Terrence Crawford truly trained 5 years to get ready for that fight against Errol Spence Jr. And 5 years in the making, Terrence Crawford looked unstoppable. He was very dominant in that fight. And a lot of credit goes to Brian McIntyre. Of course, majority of the reason that Terrence Crawford won that fight is because he's the one fighting the fight. But nonetheless, that is huge that we have Brian McIntyre potentially facing 5 years in jail in a different country. And this is another question mark to me. Where does this leave the Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence Jr. rematch? Terrence Crawford's going to need his guy. We still don't know when the rematch will take place between Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford. There's still no date official yet. But in my opinion, I think it's going to happen by November or December of the end of 2023. That's just my prediction on it. But this leaves a big question mark. Where does this fight go? Because Terrence Crawford is going to want his guy, Brian McIntyre, in his corner for one of the biggest fights, again, of his illustrious boxing career. You had the masterminds between Derek James and Brian McIntyre, the trainers, two of the best trainers in the sport of boxing today, in their fighters' corners for the first fight. This would be a big blow if Terrence Crawford could potentially not have Brian McIntyre in his corner for the Errol Spence rematch. But then looking at it, he could potentially not have Brian McIntyre in his corner for the remaining of his boxing career if he is stuck over the UK and is charged with 5 years in prison, because Terence Crawford is already 35 years old. He doesn't have much left in the gas tank. He doesn't plan to get to extend his boxing career on to 50-0 and more, something that Floyd Mayweather achieved. He's already said that on several occasions and in different interviews. But nonetheless, Terence Crawford really doesn't have much time left in the sport of boxing. I give it another 3 to 4 big-time fights, and I think he's going to walk away. One of the best to do it in this generation, in my opinion, the best fighter since Floyd Mayweather retired. But without your guy, without your main mastermind helping you in the corner in between rounds, it affects a fighter in different ways in combat sports, whether it's in MMA, whether it's in the sport of boxing. It hits different not having the guy that knows you best, the guy that knows what you're doing and has been the big reason for your success in your boxing career, not that be by your side. So I feel for Terence Crawford. I know he hasn't spoke on the situation just yet. I feel for him because they have a close relationship outside the ring. Hopefully Brian McIntyre could get out of there. It's the sport of boxing really needs a mastermind like the way how he is, and he could potentially win trainer of the year with Terence Crawford becoming a 2-time welterweight champion, the first ever welterweight champion in boxing history. So this is huge. We'll see how this plays out by October 9th, but those are my thoughts on Brian McIntyre being arrested in the United Kingdom this past weekend.